So this is half past paper week 4 for foundation. We've got all the even numbers this week. We had all the odd numbers last week. So this is 43 marks out of 80. These are all the topics that we'll be covering in this video, and all the Sparks codes as usual if you do have Sparks at your school and you want to use them for independent learning. Okay, question number 2. Write 1.59 correct to 1 decimal place. So when we are rounding to decimal places, the first decimal place is this number here. And we always check the next column over. Now 5 and above rounds up, and 4 and below rounds down. So because that number is a 9, we're going to round up, and our answer here is going to be 1.6. The 9 rounds the 5 up, so we have 1.6. If that 9 was a 2, it would have rounded down, which would have kept it the same. We would have written 1.5. Question number 4. Write down a 6-digit number, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that has 4 as its thousands digits. So this is the 1, the tens, the hundreds, the thousands, the 10,000s, and the 100,000s. We want a 4 as the thousands digit. Now, none of the other numbers matter, but we can't use a 4 again. So we could do, 234,652. Let's do all different numbers just because we can, okay? So it doesn't matter what you write there, as long as you have 3 numbers and then 3 numbers, 6 digits in total, and it's this number here, the thousands column, that needs to be a 4. Question number 6. Margaret is thinking of a number. She says, my number is odd, so that means it's not in the 2 times table. It could be 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13. They're all your odd numbers. It's also got to be a factor of 36. So your factors of 36 are numbers that fit in to 36 an exact number of times. So that's 1 and 36, 2 and 18, 3 and 12, 4 and 9 and 6. Those are all of the factors of 36, numbers that fit into 36 an exact number of times. And then multiples of 3 needs to be a number in the 3 times table. So we've got 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18 and so on. Now it has to be odd, it has to be a factor of 36, it has to be a multiple of 3. So it has to be in all 3 of those lists. I can see that 3 is in all of those lists. I can see 9 is in all of those lists. They're all odd numbers and factors of 36 and multiples of 3. Is there any more? There might be others, but do you know what? Either of those is going to be absolutely fine. So I'm going to say, there are 2 possible numbers Margaret could be thinking of. Read the question, Hannah. There are 2 possible numbers Margaret could be thinking of. Write down these 2 numbers. There we go. So 3 or 9. Perfect. Question number 8. Neil buys 30 pens, 30 pencils, 30 rulers and 30 pencil cases. What is the total amount of money that Neil spends? So for pens, he can get 6 for 82p. If we times that by 5, we'll get 30. So I need to do 82p times 5 for my pens. Then pencils, 15 pencils is 45p. We need to times that by 2 so that we get 30. So we're just trying to get 30 of each. 45 times 2. Rulers are 10 for £1.25, so we need to times that by 3 to get 30. So rulers are going to be £1.25, and we're going to times that by 3 because we want 30. And 30 pencil cases, we don't have a deal for that. We've just got to buy them individually. So we're going to do 30 times 37. Now, some of those answers are going to be in pennies and some are going to be pounds, so we just need to be careful of that. 82 times 5, that is 410, so that's £4.10. Let's put this all in pounds. Pencils, 45 times 2 is 90, so that's 90 pence. I'm going to put 0.90. £1.25 times 3, that is £3.75. That's in pounds, that's okay. And last but not least, 30 times 37. I'm just using my calculator. This is a calculator paper. So that is 1,110. So £11.10. Adding all of those answers together is going to get me the total cost. So in my calculator, I'm typing £4.10, add 0.9, add 3.75, add 11.1. And that gets me £19.10. and 85 pence as my final answer. Let's pop it on the answer line. Oh, 1985. There we go. 5 marks for that. That's okay. Question number 10. Write down all the prime numbers between 20 and 30. They love asking this question, okay? So it's really, really good to know them. Prime numbers are numbers that only have 2 factors, 1 and themselves. So 2 is the first prime number, then 3, then 5, then 7. 9 is not a prime number because it has a factor of 3. So that doesn't count. Then 11, 13, 17, and so on. 19. Now, some people think 21 is a prime, but remember that 21 is in the 3 times table. It has a factor of 3, so that's not. 23 and 29. They are your numbers, the prime numbers between 20 and 30. So 23 and 29, we had to write them both here to get both marks. Catherine says 2 is the only even prime number. Is Catherine right? So yes, because all other even numbers, so all the even numbers above that, will have a factor of 2. And we're looking for numbers that don't have any factors other than 1 in themselves. So if you're thinking about 4, 6, 8, 10, they're all in the 2 times table. So all the other even numbers have a factor of 2, whereas 2 only has 1 and itself, so 1 and 2, and therefore it is prime. Question number 12. A group of football fans were asked what their half-time snack was. The table below gives information about their answers. So for drawing a pie chart, first thing we need to do is add these up. So 11, add 17, add 8. We need to find out how many people are going to be included in our pie chart. And that is 28, add 8, 36. So I'm then going to take 360 degrees in a pie chart, all the way around in a full turn, and divide that between the 36 people. And that means that each person is worth 10 degrees. So if these 11 people said burger, I need to do 11 times 10 to find out that this section is 110 degrees. And then I need to do 17 times 10 to find out that this section is 170 degrees. And last but not least, I need to times 8 by 10, which gives me 80 degrees. And if we added that all together, it would add up to 360, so we know that we've done that right. It should be out of 360. You now need to get your protractor. Now, you're going to have to bear with me because it's quite tricky to do this. I'm trying to edit it on the PDF, but it's not quite there. Anyway, the first angle we need to draw is 110 degrees. So you want to put your protractor this way up, and you want to make sure that the centre of the protractor is at the centre of the pie chart, and that line there should already be drawn going up to the top, and we've got 0 degrees there at the edge. Now I'm going to go round. I want the first angle to be 110 degrees, so I'm going to go round until I get to 110, and that is about here. Okay, so you're going to do it accurately. You're then going to move your protractor out of the way, and you can then draw from that point to that line and know that that's going to be 110 degrees. So we're going to label that section burger. You then want to, and I can't for some reason, this isn't letting me, you then want to turn your protractor round. So let's say you've got your protractor on like this, 170, let's say it's just about here, and then we're going to join that up with a straight line again. I'll delete that in a second. There we go, so 170 degrees for that bit, and then what's left will be your final section. So I've got 170 degrees and I'm going to label that pie, and then the last bit is hot dog, and that is 80 degrees, and you can always check. So crucially, you are moving your protractor round. The 0 should always be at the start of your new section. Okay, question number 14. Each worker in a factory is either left-handed or right-handed. 22 of the 45 workers are male, so 22 are male, and we know we've got 45 workers altogether, so we're then going to work out the rest by subtracting, and that's going to be 23. These two numbers need to add together to make 45. It then says 16 of the 34 right-handed workers, so hang on, right-handed workers, these two circles need to add together to make 34. 16 of those are female, so 16 female right-handed, they're going there. And if 16 of these are right-handed, then the rest of the females, 7 of them, because we want to add it to make 23, are going to be left-handed. And we then know that if 16 of the females are right-handed, then we're going to have however many males that are right-handed to add up to make 34. So if I do 34 and I take away 16, I get 18. And that means that this must be 4 because we know that 4 and 18 have to add to make 22. That is it. We've completed the frequency tree, and that is 3 marks just for filling it in and making sure that the boxes add up to the previous box. So there is your answer. Question number 16. Marla buys some bags of buttons. There are 19 buttons or 20 buttons or 21 buttons or 22 buttons in each bag. The table gives some information about the number of buttons in each bag. The total number of buttons is 320. So we've got one bag, frequency means how many, that has 22 buttons in it. So we know that that is just 22 buttons. We've got 3 bags that each have 21 buttons in. So we know that altogether that would be 63. I'm just timesing this together. I've got 7 bags that each have 20 buttons in them. So that would be 140. So if we add up that so far, 140, add 63, add 22, that makes 225. But we know that there are actually 320 buttons. So 320 minus 225 means that we know the bags with 19 buttons in must add up to 95. So how many bags would I need with 19 buttons in to make 95? Well, if I do 95 divided by 19, it's 5 bags. 5 times 19 is 95. So we are missing 5 bags, and as long as you pop a 5 in that number, a 5 in that empty space, that's your 3 marks. Okay, question 18. Describe fully the single transformation. So for transformations, we have rotation, reflection, enlargement, and translation. They're your 4 transformations. And if you're ever asked to describe fully the single transformation, you should only be picking one of those. In this case, it's a reflection. We can see that that's been reflected. So reflection is going to get us 1 mark. And then for the second mark, we need the mirror line. I'm going to grab my ruler here, and it is actually going to be this line here. We want to make sure that we're the same distance away from the mirror line on both sides, and we can see that that is 3 boxes away on each side, so that is going to be correct. So here you could say reflection in the y-axis, but the y-axis is also called the line x equals 0, so that would be absolutely fine, or that would be absolutely fine. Either of those would get you the mark. Question number 20. Simplify m cubed times m to the power of 4. So m cubed means m times m times m, and m to the power of 4 means m times m times m times m. And if we are multiplying those together, then in total we have m to the power of 7. So when we are timesing, we can add the powers. With the next one, I've got 5np cubed, and I'm cubing that number. So I'm timesing it by itself, and then timesing it by itself again. And that means that you can just do 5 times 5 times 5, or the 5 cubed, which is 125, n times n times n, which is n cubed, and then p cubed times p cubed times p cubed. And we know that when we're timesing, just as we did in part A, we're adding those powers. So that's p to the power of 9. For part C, 32 q to the power of 9 r to the power of 4 divided by 4 q to the power of 3 r. So we're going to look at each bit in turn. So I'm going to start by thinking about the 32 divided by 4, and that's going to give me 8. Then I'm going to do q to the power of 9 divided by q to the power of 3. When you divide, we take away the powers. So q to the power of 9 divided by q to the power of 3 is q to the power of 6. And then with the last bit, r to the power of 4 divided by r, that is r cubed. Because that r on its own is the same as saying r to the power of 1. And again, we're dividing, so we're taking away the powers. Question number 22. The line L is shown on the grid find an equation for L. So the equation of any straight line is y equals mx plus c, where m is your gradient, the steepness of the line, and c is the y-intercept, which is where it crosses the y-axis. The y-axis is this one here. So firstly, let's have a look at the gradient. Gradient means for every one across, how much does this line go up or down? And here we can see it goes up, and it goes up by 3. For every one across, it goes up by 3. So we're going to make the gradient 3, y equals 3x. And then the value where it crosses the y-axis, which I've highlighted in yellow, this line crosses the y-axis at minus 6. So the equation of the line is y equals 3x minus 6. Another way you could have got the gradient is to make a triangle. Now, it doesn't matter how big you make your triangle. You just want to find some points that are quite easy to use. So that point there, that point there. And the gradient is given by rise over run. So change in y divided by change in x. That's 6 squares, that's 2 squares. And 6 divided by 2 also gives a gradient of 3. So you can do it a couple of different ways, but that's the equation of the line that we're looking for. Y equals 3x minus 6. And question number 24. Complete the table of values for y equals x squared minus x minus 6. Now this is a calculator paper, so you can do a table of values in your calculator if you have a fancy enough calculator, or I think the easiest thing to do is just to use brackets. So in your calculator, type bracket bracket squared minus bracket bracket minus 6, and don't hit equals just yet. You're then going to use that left hand arrow and go back and put minus 2, that's the first x coordinate that we've got to check, in both of those brackets. So in your calculator, you're putting bracket bracket squared minus bracket bracket minus 6. And the reason I'm doing that is because it's just telling me to do that here. It's something squared minus that something minus 6, and that is how you get y. So bracket bracket squared minus bracket bracket, there's no number there, minus 6. So then I'm going to put minus 2 in both of those brackets, and doing that gives you 0. So that one there is 0. Now don't clear it, just use your left arrow again, go back and change both of the minus 2's to be minus 1. And by inputting minus 1, we hit equals, we get minus 4. I'm now going to go back, hit that left arrow, and I'm going to change them both to 1s in both the brackets. That gives me minus 6. Same thing again. I'm going to go back, change both the numbers in those brackets to be 2, and that is minus 4. And then last but not least, going back to both of those brackets and just changing them to be 3, and that gives us 0. We've now got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 coordinates to plot on our graph. So minus 3, 6 is here, minus 2, 0 is here, minus 1, minus 4, 0, minus 6, 1, minus 6, 2, minus 4, and 3, 0. And then we're going to join that up with a nice smooth curve. Now make sure that when you get to those 2 values at the bottom, you might only have 1 value at the bottom, but if you've got 2, then you want to make sure you dip slightly below in the middle. It wouldn't have a flat bottom, so something like that. There we go. And obviously if we'd have carried on, it would have gone up there, but we're not doing that. We've drawn exactly what they've asked us to do. It then says use your graph to find estimates of the solutions to the equation x squared minus x minus 6 equals minus 2. Well, x squared minus x minus 6 is what we've just drawn. We've just drawn y equals x squared minus x minus 6. So if I can draw y equals minus 2, then this is just simultaneous equations, just asking me when does this graph equal minus 2. So I'm going to draw the line y equals minus 2. It's not asking when it equals 0, so we're not doing the roots here. We're saying when does it equal minus 2. And that happens here and here. So I'm just going to look up from there and up to there and then state those 2 values. So I'm going to say that that's minus 1.6 for that one and 2.6 for that one. So x equals minus 1.6 or 2.6, positive 2.6. Well done if you got those. Question number 26. Here is a triangular prism. Work out the volume of the prism. So volume of a prism is the area of the cross section, which is that shape that you see the whole way through, and then we just multiply it by how far back it goes. So I need the area of that triangle. Now the area of a triangle is base times height divided by 2. Unfortunately, I don't have the base right now. I know that this side is 8.4 and I know that this side is 7.2, but I do not know the base. I can't work out the area using 7.2 and 8.4 because they are not perpendicular. We don't have the base times the height. How could we work out the base though? So some of you might remember that if you have a right angled triangle and you know two sides and you want to know the third side, you can use Pythagoras. And here we want to know a shorter side and we know the longer side, which is the hypotenuse. So we're going to do 8.4 squared take away 7.2 squared. And we always square. If we want the hypotenuse, we add them. But if we want a shorter side, we take away. So 8.4 squared, take away 7.2 squared, and then square root that answer, and that is 4.32666. I'm not going to round it too much. So square root of that is 4.32666. So I got my answer, I square rooted it. And now that makes sense. It's a shorter side, so that's that. So now if I want the area of the triangle, I'm going to do base times height divided by 2. The base is that number. The height is 7.2. That's going perpendicular, straight up, divided by 2. Now I'm not going to clear this number from my calculator. I'm just going to type times 7.2 and then divide it by 2. So I've kept all of the accuracy of that answer. I haven't rounded it at all. And that gives an area of the triangle, it's gone the other way. Area of the triangle that is 15.57598 and so on. Now to get the volume, we just need to take the area of that triangle and times it by how far back the shape goes. So I'm going to times that by 18 and that will be my final answer once I've rounded it. So that is 280.36766. We want that to 3 significant figures though. That's your first significant figure, that's your second, that's your third. Always check the next number which rounds down. So 280 was your answer here for 5 marks. That's the end of the paper. I hope you found it helpful and I'll see you next week for week 5.